Hey everyone, welcome to the Vegan Stew. We're happy to have you here to watch our latest episode, which I think is 39 is this episode. And Kelly may be glitchy, so just know that Canadian Wi-Fi is glitching tonight. So let's see. Thank you to Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge for sponsoring our live talks for the month of August. There's a few more days left to enter our wish pond. And what do you have to do that? You have to upload a creative picture, photograph, something with one of our sponsors. And who are our sponsors? We have Terra Seed, Hodo Foods, Veg Key, Revel Cheese, Cinnaholic, Fabulous, and Birdie Wild's Adventure Sauce. That would be 7. And plus, you can go on to Virtual Veg Fest Live whenever you like, and you can pick somebody on there. You can do something with Virtual Veg Fest Live too. Just get creative, and we'll pick winners, and you'll have your prize back sent out to you if you're one of the winners. Simple as that. Let's see. Go to YouTube, hit subscribe to the Vegan Stew, to Virtual Veg Fest. Oops, I do it that way. And we'd really appreciate it. Hit the notification bell because you never know when we'll go live, but you can words at night. You can feel confident that at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, except for the first Wednesday of the month, you will see the Vegan Stew, and we will have conversations like the one tonight, which will be about bullying, which is a really important conversation. Probably every single person who will ever watch this will say that they have been bullied in some form or manner, and we're going to delve into it, especially with raising children and how they are bullied in school. So let me bring on the smaller stew crew tonight. We have Marla Rose from Vegan Street, Ellen Jaffe Jones, the vegcoach.com, and Kelly from Climate Healers and the Vegan Abler. Let us start. Well, I was going to start with the fact that I made this absolutely delicious cauliflower, right? Because that's what we talk about, and it is what we talk about. It's from a vendor of ours who posted this really disgusting video of Velveeta and pasta and more cheese and dairy milk, and they cooked it on a grill. And I said, tell me how you want to veganize that, because we don't have chunks of cheese and Velveeta style. We just don't have that disgustingness. So she said, just take some cauliflower, boil it, and then food process it. I did it in my Vitamix, add some spices, and you'll have something absolutely amazing. So I did. And that's why I had dinner before we went live and not after. I combined it with the Good Catch vegan crab cakes. Okay. Have you had those?
I have. I don't so fish and sea life was never big in my life, so it's not revelatory to me. So but I'm curious, was the cauliflower used as the cheese sauce?
It was actually used almost like a potato. So okay. I put it on the plate underneath, and my thought process was to make like a mac and cheese with it, but it ended up being more of a whipped potato consistency. Yeah. I put nooch, miso, and a whole bunch of spices in. Yes, I'm so happy about it that I needed to talk about it. All right, Marla, let's see. That's a segue into food.
Yeah, that felt like a segue. Okay, so I thought this isn't really like a huge news story, but I thought it was interesting because as vegans, we're always trying to guess what motivates people and what, just kind of, a lot of times it just feels like we're, kind of shooting in the dark, trying to figure it out. How do you get people to try vegan food with an open mind or be excited about it? Anyway, these are 2 small studies, so fewer than 200 people, I believe, in both of them, but still like the first of their kind. They need to, do bigger studies, but they're expensive and hard to pull off. But anyway, these are published studies that found that when polling people about videos promoting plant-based proteins, like say veggie burgers, and emphasizing the taste of it, emphasizing the nutrition of it, or emphasizing the social good of it, what influenced people the most? And it was the social good. So like emphasizing that this is better in terms of like, you know, getting ahead of climate change in terms of, you know, factory farm stuff. So anyway, that's the whole point. You know, Americans eat 58 pounds of beef per year approximately, compared to the global average of 14 pounds. That's just shameful. And beef has 60 times the greenhouse gas volume as peas, which is a common ingredient in our veggie burgers. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting and could be a different way of looking at, you know, like we tend to think that nobody cares if they're already eating animals, but people do care. And so, you know, maybe these are different ways of looking into consumers, you know.
All right. Awesome.
Mhm.
Kelly, you want to talk about floods?
I would love to. Okay, so Yahoo News had an article stating climate change is making drought conditions worse, more frequent, more severe, and major population centers around the world are experiencing them. 36% of New York City, which is the most populous place in the U.S., is in severe or extreme drought, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor. In New Jersey, crops are smaller than previous years. Plants aren't growing as high. Corn is withering on their stalks, and apples are smaller than they are in previous years. Long Island is in stage 1 water emergency. It's happening all over, just in the U.S., but in China, they're in a nationwide drought alert that was just issued on Friday, and they have record-breaking droughts in the country. It's causing some of the rivers to run dry, like the Yangtze, which is the world's 3rd largest river, has reached record low water levels this summer. And rivers are going dry in Europe, like the Loire, I hope I'm saying it right, the Loire River in France is currently barely navigatable due to the drought. But this is what's most important, is what's causing this. And in a 2020 study in the journal Science, they looked at changes in temperature, relative humidity, and participation between 1901 and 2018. They found that climate change is responsible for 46% of the current mega drought severity, and global warming is exacerbating the droughts due to increasing demand for water, which is going to animals and plants, and the majority of our plants are being grown for the animals. So, you know, the science is there, and we just need to understand that connection and the urgency that goes around that, and that is we need to go plant-based.
I think they do understand it. They just don't have, to be blunt, don't have the balls to say it yet.
Yeah.
Is really what it is.
You know, all you have to do, there's so many YouTube videos about all these rivers drying up. It is crazy. Cruise lines are canceling their tours. And, you know, for those of you who didn't see, if you Google it, this is a river in Texas. Those are 130 million year old dinosaur prints. I don't know if you could see that very clearly, but Google it. It is on the Paluxy River. And multiple footprints. They have videos, and different sources are posting videos and photos, just so you know it's not fake news. But these rivers are really running dry.
I mean, that's a really cool positive to the river running dry, though. I mean, who gets to see dinosaur prints in this day and age?
As we're circling the drain, you got to find something.
We got to find the positive in everything. Like, you know, the dead bodies in Lake Mead. I mean, no one probably would have ever found them if we didn't have a drought.
And, you know, I don't know how many people have been on cruises, and yes, they can be fun, but they really aren't. They're kind of environmental cesspools. And the last one I went on, I asked the captain, as I would, like, so how are you dealing with the pee and the poop from the ship? And they say, well, we just, you know, we take it out far enough. Is it ever far enough? Or they process it better before it gets dumped. But
that whole international waters thing is awful.
Yeah, and you can gamble, but you can, I guess, also drop your poop. Who knew? That's awful. Okay, so the other touch of, because we're going to touch on climate every week because we want you to understand how important it is, in a positive stance, California, the leader in pretty much anything that changes in this country, has decided or is going to vote on the decision to take effect by 2035, the ban of the sale of new gasoline cars. And it's like, yo, wait, what about my Hummer? Well, guess what? They'll have to make it as a electric vehicle,
Yeah.
which is getting, the tech is getting much, much better
Mhm.
with each and every day. Then again, we do need to work on building those batteries in this country and not just rely on them from other countries because, when China shuts down, it kind of impacts the phones and the cars and like pretty
Yeah.
much everything that we need a battery for, which includes your lights. So very interesting that when California makes a decision like this, they're the largest consumer and producer, I guess, of cars. And other states will follow because they have to. When California has made decisions on animal agriculture, like not allowing certain things, other states followed because you want to be able to sell in California to the pretty much its own country size of population and GDP, right?
Right.
California could literally be its own country. And they make decisions, and then a lot of states follow along, and then the rest of them just have to begrudgingly follow along.
Mhm.
So that's a really cool thing. I don't know how far it goes because it says electric, it doesn't say hybrid. So that is interesting to me. 2035 is not that far away. So I feel like that's an interesting step, and that hopefully the batteries will last where you can drive 500, 600, 1,000 miles
Right.
on one charge, as opposed to some cars are 90.
I just recently got a Prius, and talking to the salesman, he goes like, because I was concerned, I was buying a used car, and asked about the life of the battery, and he says, "I've never seen one go in these things. I just haven't." So I do think they are, even for the more mainstream cars, are getting better. They're figuring this out because they have to.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they do. They do go bad because I know people have had that issue, and
Right,
it's not the cheapest fix, but it's you get at least 100,000 miles on it because that's what the warranties are,
right.
which is most people don't keep their cars for that long anymore. Even though right now you probably want to because it's really expensive to get a used car. So, well, that brings us, not a smooth segue whatsoever, to a very important topic. And I touched on this topic on a virtual Veg Fest Live with the UK vegan family because their child and them as a family have been bullied on the internet. And they went and had to go as far as, after that happened, to block out their son's picture from any picture moving forward in anything that's posted on social media. Because this really, really nasty, I don't even want to call them a human being, this really, really nasty piece of trash on YouTube goes and finds vegans and puts them on their channel and says how gross they are and takes them in the worst light with the worst freezing of the frames. And it's pretty awful. And they were attacked by this person.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she especially took the brunt of it because they felt that she'd lost so much weight, that she looked unhealthy. All the stereotypes. Vegans look unhealthy. They look, their skin's pulled back. They're different. They're gray instead of having color in their faces. We could easily show up on this, just so you know. I can't remember the name of it, and they didn't share it live, but you can find it. I can probably find it in my notes, and you can go look at it. Like Milton Mills is on there. I'm pretty sure like Karen Ramsey's on there. A whole bunch of people. Dr. Greger's on there. I mean, this person, and they obviously are making money because there's There's the views and they have the followers.
These were people who agreed to be interviewed, not knowing what they were getting into, or they just took
They
their image.
pulled
This-
they
This
pulled
is
the,
they pulled it from the internet.
so they took clips of individuals in the worst, like you could take anyone. You could take a supermodel.
Yeah, you can
who's
be like,
running
and
off.
like just
Yeah.
grab it.
Exactly. That's just what kind of low life trash does that kind of thing.
Right. And their
Mhm.
advice from that was never put your children on the internet.
Yeah.
Like never, ever, ever put your children on the internet.
Yeah.
Like to block out their faces, never post their pictures.
Yeah.
Because you just never know if it'll happen to you. And it was absolutely horrendous.
Mhm.
So as Marla, as somebody who raised a vegan child,
Mhm.
what was it like in school for him?
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear that because we had a really similar experience and we were pretty naive about certain things. So my son, he was raised vegan, was always embraced it proudly and owned it for himself. School is, that's part of why we started the Vegan Family Network, is to build community of other like-minded kids like him. I have a feeling my son would maybe have been bullied even if he weren't vegan because he's a sensitive, different kind of kid. And he just doesn't care about fitting in. I mean, he's the best, but those are not necessarily the qualities that like 7-year-olds are looking for in their, so anyway, the point is in third grade, I believe, it may have been second or third grade, his teacher, there were a lot of questions about him being vegan from other classmates, and his teacher asked him if he wanted to do a presentation on being vegan. And John and I, being the parents that we are, we're like, what do we do? What do we do? So we talked about it as a family and decided, he wanted to make a video about why, like the day in the life of being a vegan kid. And so we created this video to show to his class, and John edited it and it looked beautiful, and it was I think it's still on YouTube, but I think it's called like Justice the 9-Year-Old Vegan or something like that. Anyway, his class loved it, and they ended up showing it to the whole school. And it went really well, except what happened was, we had to put it somewhere so that the classes could see it. So we put it on YouTube, goofballs that we are. And somehow or another, I think it was like Care2 or some old website, found it and put it out to their email list, but in a positive way, like, look at this great kid. So that was kind of strange. It was like a big popular website. But then the comments started rolling in. That kid looks pale. He's thin. He's out of it. I just searching for negative, garbagey hot takes that just, and it was hurtful. It's just, everyone's got a hot take, and it doesn't have to be rational. It doesn't have to be true. So anyway, so we experienced that as well. I mean, now my son is 20, and I guess we could take it off YouTube if we wanted to, but the experience was positive. When we released it, when we inadvertently put it out to the public, all the trolls came out to play. So that's what our experience was like. Hi, Donna.
I was gonna transition, but I'm not going to. Okay, Kelly.
So my son went vegan when he was 14, and he made the decision on his own. Like, we were both, my partner and I, vegan. I was vegan, and then my partner went vegan, and then my son went vegan shortly after that. And we showed him the movie Earthlings, and we asked him if he felt comfortable watching it, and he said yes. And he watched it, and then the next day he asked for lunch money. And I always, at that time, I had, I can't control what he's buying outside of the house, but he knew I had hoped that he would not be buying meat. And when he came home that day, we asked him what he had for lunch, and he ate meat. And we were really upset. And then about a week later, he was going to visit his grandparents for a little while. And we're like, well, you know, because he was eating vegan here. And we're like, well, what are you going to eat when you're there? And he's like, well, can you buy me some vegan food? And we're like, does that mean you're vegan? Yeah. So, I mean, he made that decision all on his own. And it was right at the time, Marla, my son Ethan is just like your son, like the most amazing kid ever, but he's unique, he's different, he's shy, he's introverted, he's all that, but he's incredible. So, and he had a lot of social anxiety, and he went through puberty kind of late. So when he did go vegan, he was very slim. He was kind of going through puberty, so he's in that in-between stage. And he had so much social anxiety. He hated eating food. He hates eating food in front of people. Yeah. And so he didn't like eating food in front of his friends. So he actually did look very skinny. So the bullying actually, sadly, came from my family. We thought that we were not taking care of our child, and it was because he was vegan, right? So they would like say things behind my back, like, when he was there visiting, like, hey, you want something, So that was unfortunate. But he, as far as I know, and I would always be very open with him, asking him if he was ever bullied, because I was just ready to jump right on it. And he told me he was never bullied. They were all very interested in the food when he brought it. Sometimes the friends would try it, but they were all very respectful. When we went over to friends' places, they always try to accommodate, to have food for him. So I'm very grateful that my son has had a good experience being vegan, while going through high school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I could jump in sort of with a reverse bullying story. And I've gone on my headset. You can hear me okay, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I was the assistant coach at our high school, and the head coach had invited me for a number of years to participate. I ran with the kids, and she asked me to bring in healthy food, kids who had not seen like peanut butter ever. And so it was really a great experience. I love doing that part of it. But then when the Butter is Back Time magazine story came out, all of a sudden, and she would take the kids to get donuts after track races that were high school events. And then when that Butter is Back story came out, it was this license to go after the vegans, and not only me, but just veganism in general. And both the kid and the coach were just piling up on me and veganism, and it was just such a tough period, the kind of hate speech that was there. And, I just ended up banning and, blocking all of them. But it just really made me sad to have, I felt like given my heart, and then to be treated like that just as a person. I mean, like, who does that? Even if you disagree with their beliefs. And it was like, they wanted this license that here they were healthy runners, and they wanted this license to be able to eat donuts and crap after these events. And that was just sort of their way of saying anybody who disagrees is too bad.
When was this Butter is Back thing?
Oh gosh, that was
like the 90s, right? Yeah.
Oh no. This was, I would say, in the last 6 to 8 years, because I had to deal with it was when I was a speaker, well, what about, is butter really good for you? And I would say it was around paleo vegan when that, I kind of think of things when my books came out. So because butter and coffee then became
paleo era. Yeah.
Paleo era. The second one, actually.
That's no butter from cows. And it was, and a number of the vegan doctors that was linked to some research that had come out that the vegan doctors totally debunked. And it was one of those things that just kind of got interpreted the wrong way. If you Google the Butter is Back research,
right.
it'll
cherry
come
picked. Yeah.
That's like the eggs in the dairy industry and the meat industry, right? It's that they all do it. Cigarettes, sugar, they all do it. That's very interesting, because I don't remember that at all whatsoever. Okay, let me say, So Gotham the Raw, which is now. So thank you for watching, even though you couldn't be with us live tonight. Another form of bullying. See, now still getting something is still part of the show. So a form of bullying, disregarding that the child is vegan and feeding the child something with dairy, stating, "Oh, it's just this one time. They'll be fine." You are starving them. So disrespect and gaslighting in a sense.
Yeah.
My goodness. Usually that's from family, right? It's usually family
Yeah.
or like close friends. They go over to your friend's house and you, or exes. It happens a lot where the ex is no longer
Yeah.
vegan and they just decide they're going to feed the kid Cheetos and crap food and be like, well, they're with me. I mean, now that is just, it's almost child abuse,
Mm-hmm.
depending,
Right.
right? It's on that verge because the vegan children that I know that are being raised by vegan parents currently who are younger, when someone offers them something, they say, "Is that vegan?"
Right.
And if they get offered something that they know isn't, like a marshmallow, say, they'll say, "Is that a
Mm-hmm.
vegan marshmallow?" And the person would be like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And the person and the kid will be like, "Well, there's gelatin in that. I won't eat that." And you're like,
Well, and today
wow.
there's so many different products that are vegan that I can imagine a child who grows up in that, like we tried to raise our son with this feeling of abundance, not scarcity of like, oh, don't eat that, don't eat it, just kind of like vegan marshmallows, vegan chocolate, whatever it is. But so I can imagine there would be some confusion with, the child too, like just if they're getting something that they would normally get at home, but it's,
Right.
not, yeah.
It's,
Um,
I mean, it would, and it can happen to adults too, because we're talking about children being bullied because they're vegan, but adults most certainly get bullied because we're vegan. A lot of times from family. When I went vegetarian at 15, my family was like, "Yeah, that won't last." And they were like, they're pretty. One brother was like real dicky about it, but we had that dicky type of relationship anyway. But that really motivated me for it to last, I don't know, 33 plus years. So, I mean, actually longer. Sorry. I was 15.
it's
That's a long
always
time.
funny. I was
It
just
was, I
saying,
mean,
it's always funny when somebody thinks that something I'm doing is a fad. Like my family stopped calling the things that I do that.
a lot of times for a lot of people it is. But let's
Mm,
just touch on that for a second because it seems that people who are vegan, ethically vegan,
right.
there's I admit there is definitely a difference, but ethically vegan, it's a lot easier, I feel, for us to go, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Mhm.
No, I'm going to stop. No, I'm just, I mean, a lot of things, I think it comes more naturally to us to, when we see the ethics or the reasons why, to make the choice to go, okay,
Right.
I just won't, I just
Mhm.
won't eat that. Or I won't do that. Or I won't say that.
Mhm.
Or I'll, pronouns, everything just comes, I think, a little bit easier because there's a compassion to what we do and how
Right.
we feel and what we say. Kelly.
Kelly had, yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to quickly touch on what Now said, about family, because I was vegetarian, um, and I was raising my daughter as a single mom, and so she was vegetarian, and I got a lot of help from my parents because I was a single parent. So I would bring her over there a lot, and my dad, rest in peace. He was a hunter and a fisherman, and they would feed her fish while I was working, because they would be feeding her food, um, and that was really difficult, and I would have fights about that, and then she just started eating it because, like, I remember calling them out and them saying, "Well, she asked for it," so then it became this like hard situation for me because if my child wants something, like I want them to have that independence of deciding what they want to eat, but she wouldn't have asked for it if they weren't feeding it for her and getting her used to the taste because she wasn't eating it before.
Right.
So So it was very frustrating. And then I got pregnant. Unfortunately, I stopped being vegetarian. But with my son, because he went vegan when he was 14, obviously you can't do that to a 14-year-old. But again, love my parents. But what primarily my mom would do would be like she would say to him, she would whisper in his ear, like if we ever went over, and they were having dinner, obviously we wouldn't have dinner with them. She would like whisper in his ear, like, you want a little bit of this, you want a little bit of that, like you really want this, like you secretly want to eat this. And it was so disrespectful, like not even to me as a parent, that but like to her own grandson, that he can't think for himself, or that he like that he's being coerced, like now it's the same, like like we're, oh no, I think it was your husband, Marla, like as if we're in some cult and we're holding him hostage or something. So yeah,
as if like we were raised with any awareness of what we were eating, as if like at least with our kids, they're educated about it. There's no mystique and mystery about what animal products and flesh is. And to Helene's point about the ethical basis of veganism being a much stronger foundation than health. Although I do know lots of people who come in through the door of health, I think a lot of times you have to have that underpinning for it to stick, because like as Ellen was mentioning, butter is back, eggs are good cholesterol, like if it's hinging on this nebulous thing that changes all the time, it's not very it's not very strong. But Maya was asking, as a single mom, tips on how to handle this issue. Please, her daughter has her own wants. Being a teenager, teenage stuff is definitely challenging, I think, because you just, I will just say, I think my son was always integrated it and didn't, but like I know a lot of people who went through this experience with their teen kids, and sometimes you just have to love them and let them go and just sit, have your boundaries about it. Just say, I'm not spending my money or cooking these dead animals. So you might have to figure that out for yourself. It's not coming in my house. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Looks like Ellen has something to say. Ellen?
Yeah. When my kids were young, we were vegetarian at that point. And one of the things that I always tried to do was incorporate them in the cooking process, however that took form. So we had a garden, an organic garden, which is when I moved out, my ex mowed it down in front of the kids. So, that's the kind of stuff that I was dealing with. But, I would be so happy when they would go out and pick the cherry tomatoes or the kale, and they'd eat it on the way in. If it didn't make it in, I was just, as long as they had that tactile smelling going on, I knew that it was imprinting. Right. And even just making a smoothie in a blender, if they dumped the whole bag of blueberries in it, oh, well, just having that ownership of cooking. And to this day, I wish they were vegan, but, food, as you can understand, just based on what little I've shared, I'm really over it, was a big battleground. And I just feel lucky that for the most part, they eat pretty healthfully, and they do eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. And I think it's just because they have me as a mom screaming this stuff in a not so subtle way. But, you just have to hope. And they are all like in their 30s now. So, you just have to, as others have said, kind of give it your best shot and let it go and try not to create a battleground.
Yeah.
There was a group in St. Louis where I'm from called Kids in the Middle. And, I just always tried not to get my kids in the middle of the stuff that was going on. And it's just something that is really easy, much easier said than done.
So Maya, I'm going to go with the J being like a Maya. And so in your house, you cook what you cook. Depending on her age, as a teenager, she can cook. I was cooking from 8 years old up.
Mhm.
So if that's necessary, let her cook the foods that she wants to eat, and you eat the foods that you want to eat, but she's cooking them. Or you say, well, you'll eat the food, I'll make foods that you like, that we both enjoy. And when you're out, you eat what you want to eat. When you go out to eat, let her eat. Lead by example. That's probably the best way to influence somebody else to improve what they're doing and how they're eating, and to come over to the vegetarian then vegan side. You can't force. I think the one thing that I think we're all in agreement on here is, with an adult or with a child, you can't force them to eat the way you want them to eat. However, Nouse's hand is raised, which I thought was absolutely adorable. So let's see. Having little ones on the spectrum, they know that it is vegan when with me, and I tell them and more. However, when they just see pizza, cookies, just like a little one should, they do not separate the two just yet. Family knows this and just does not care. So that's important. And then let's see. My dad gave little one catfish and I lost it. Oh, he wanted it. So ... The disrespect. And then let me say one more thing for now. Agree totally with Marla. I think because of my little ones being vegan since they were babies, and cooking or gardening with me and going to the farmer's market and making it an integrated process, they stay that way. Hopefully they will remain as such. But we also have to understand that they might not once they start going to school.
That's true. So I had a few little comments. One is that, as I sit here, I'm inhaling these delicious scents. My son is cooking dinner, and he didn't really express an interest in cooking until he was like, he would make his own, sandwiches and stuff. But so like 17 or 18, now he's an amazing cook. But we always integrated him into, cooking and baking, and it was like a huge part of our bonding, and I think it's helped him to develop ease and his own voice around great vegan food. The other point I just want to make was, one is, I was super rebellious as a teenager, so I can only imagine my parents telling me, no, you can't do this. So it's a very precarious thing. Now, like, being the person I am, if my parents were like, we're going vegan and here are the reasons why, I would have been totally on board, being even who I was at that time. But it's such a precarious thing that I don't think there are any absolutes or, this is the answer to that issue. It's sensitivity and nuance and figuring it out. And the last thing I was going to say, this is something my friends and I used to talk about a lot, because the comments that we're seeing here were really frequent with the other vegan parents I raised our son and our kids with, was just like our, grandparents or aunts and uncles would say, but he wanted it. Okay, so when was it our value that we give our children everything that they want when they want it? Like, when did that become something that we decided is appropriate? Like, my son could say, I want that bike that other kid's riding.
Let's go steal it. Let's go take it.
Like, I want this, I want that. Like our kids, that one, kid from the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, who just Veruca Salt, or the other, it's just like, that's how you raise a Donald Trump. And when we're realistic and we're rational about it, we realize that we don't do that with our kids unless we're cuckoo. So why is it like when our kid points at, like, a catfish or whatever, I want to try that. Your Nouse's son was probably identifying it as something delicious that Nouse makes. It's similar, it's breaded, it looks, it's so, I don't know. You know, you
And
just say no.
It's the
And these are the same parents who will lecture you, or grandparents who will lecture you that you don't use the word no enough,
Yeah.
right?
right. And it's not a matter of the child wanting it. It's a matter of you wanting to do that or give that to the child. Don't put that on like the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year old. Don't do that. That that's not what's happening here, because you as the adult in the scenario have enough control and understanding of the scenario to do the right thing and respect the parents
Yeah.
of that child, whether it's your daughter or friends or whomever's child.
Yeah.
You respect what it's the same thing. Gosh, it's the same thing with people pet sitting your dogs or cats or any
Right.
animal that you have under your care. We say this is how they live.
Right.
You don't come in and do the way you want to live with them for that brief moment of time and mess up their routines and their bodies and whatever. As a pet parent, that's why I went there. You just don't do it. That's like a good way to take like us and say house rules, and I'll go ballistic. You want to see me go ballistic? I'll go ballistic. So, Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, if nobody questions anybody, if you're raising your child like in a certain religion, right? You know, like as parents, we're supposed to, like, it's our job to instill, like, we usually just instill like our values, right? You know, and so yeah, but nobody says anything if you're raising your child religion, especially if you're raising your child Christian. So like, you know, like you said, we're ethical vegans. You know, we're teaching our children like values. But for whatever reason, that's just like off limits. Like that's just brainwashing or whatever people think we're doing.
Or it's just us.
But religion is brainwashing. What we're teaching is the truth.
It's sacrosanct. Yeah.
Vegan is our religion.
Ellen, they're gonna pull that clip, and you're gonna be in the next video.
and of course, now it's saying, and if you have a grandchild with a disability, knowing that they see food going against what I'm asking to be followed as the parent is hurtful and insulting.
It is,
and it is.
Absolutely.
And I want to make sure that, because we're talking about bullying, it would be remiss of us to not talk about suicide, and to make sure that we understand that the people and the children that are bullied can be bullied to the point where they want to take their own lives. And some do take their own lives. And as the adults in the room, we need to do better, because it's not okay. If you have the kid that's the bully in school, you need to do better. And I'll give you an example of like a kid that was a bully in the school. When I was doing my practicum in middle school, one of the kids was taught by his dad to punch first. If they flinch, you punch. That's what he was taught, and that's what he did. But it came right down. He was expelled. he was sent home. But the parents, and I don't think there's any way to really change. There's a lot of parents out there right now that are anti Black Lives Matter, anti LGBTQ plus. They are how do I say that?
Anti-woke.
Well, yeah, okay, I guess we could put it that way. I mean, racism isn't supposed to be taught in schools.
Yeah.
I mean,
quote unquote.
What kids? What are they raising?
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, a lot of the kids being raised by these parents are not. It's like being raised as in a family with meat eaters and coming out of it vegan. Your hands up for that. So, or being raised by family of vegans and coming out as meat eater, because that happens too. And I guess the basis of this is too much pressure leads to the direction the opposite of what you anticipate or want. But the bullying part, which is our main topic, there's suicide it's real, and it's impacted. I have to assume all of us. Yeah. And is the reasons you don't always know.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is it happens, and people are depressed or sad, and we push buttons, and people are dicks, and the internet,
Right.
with keyboard warriors and all these ways. Parenting is hard, but we have to do better. These poor people and children. I just
Right.
Marla and
Well,
Kelly.
I was just going to say a couple little things. One is that, I wasn't vegan when I was a child. Nobody knew what that word was, but I was picked on from first bell to last bell from middle school, like from fifth grade. I would say like the end of fifth grade through the end of eighth grade. And my home life was also very stressful. I had an alcoholic parent who was, just totally inappropriate and scary. Anyway, my point is,
That was
I think
me.
what's that?
Sorry,
Oh,
Ellen's
no,
like looking for the phone call. It's
yeah,
me.
no, the point is just that I feel like, especially with social media today, a lot, and kids who don't have necessarily supportive home lives, there are times where there's no refuge, there's no safe space. And I was not suicidal by nature, but I just wanted to disappear because it was so bad and so relentless, and just constant. Um, the other little thing I was going to mention, through my son's experience, is when he was like in third or fourth grade. We went to this progressive school where it's like zero bullying, top. I'm sorry, I'm breaking up. Of zero bullying policy, and they were so proud of that and celebrate diversity and all that stuff. But the point is that I overheard a child, like they didn't know I was there. My son was at his locker, and I overheard a child making some little snide comment about my son being vegan to him. And I just said, "Excuse me," just like, did I hear that right? And he's just like, "Oh, never mind." But the point is that kids know how to do it. They know how to stick the knife in and not leave any fingerprints, because that's, the smartest bullies are not doing it in front of the teacher and in front of the principals. They know how to do it. So if your child tells you that they're stressed because of this experience or that experience, or they're being bullied, believe them, because it's probably almost certainly true. So
Oh
that's,
yeah, Kelly.
mhm.
Yeah, talking about, just mental health. I always had body image from when I was a teenager. And the first person who bullied me, who made me insecure about my body, was my mom. Uh, and um, and I actually became anorexic for a long time. So I got better, and I vowed, like I had it better, like I would always be very open with my experience, and make sure that she felt beautiful always, no matter what. I mean, I do that with both my kids, right? But like, that you know that I support them, that they're beautiful just how they are. And so, because my son had social anxiety, he suffers from anxiety, depression. Both my children do, and so again, it's so unfortunate, that.
Mhm.
So he was going through a growth spurt, so he was skinny, but then on top of that, because of social anxiety and not wanting to eat at school, and
Yes.
maybe he was putting the idea of maybe people make fun of me because I'm vegan, even though they didn't, on him. He wasn't eating, so he actually was he was skinny because of that. And then my mom bullying him about his weight, and her not knowing about his
Mhm.
depression, anxiety, right? So, yeah, like you're saying, Helene, and we're still not open as a society to have these honest conversations about mental health and depression,
Right.
anxiety, suicide, all these things, right?
Right. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry you had that experience, Kelly and Nels. And my grandmother was she was basically my. I had a wonderful grandmother who's an angel from, sent down from earth or from heaven, and a terrible one who terrorized me and, basically gave me the keys to anorexia, just like led me down, not to laugh, but and then to I'm sure, Kelly, with your experience, having your mom comment in any way about your child's body in any context in any form would be so upsetting, knowing that background and that history. And also, I just want to really quickly say this is why I do not support any kind of vegan advocacy that body shames. It's just absolutely anathema to me. And I include actually telling lies about the benefits of veganism based on body shaming and all that stuff. So screw that. No.
When I was younger, it was parent teacher night. I was in elementary school, and my sister decided to cut my hair. Stephen knows the story. Stephen's watching. My sister decided to cut my hair. So I have frizzy hair. My hair was very frizzy and not manageable when I was in elementary school. And when my mom came home from parent teacher night, I jumped up at the top of the stairs and my mom said, "What did you do?" I don't remember school after that. That's the impact of words, right? I was so proud of what my sister did and happy with what happened until she walked into the door and said those words. That's it. That's it. It's gone. The bullying, the teasing. It was, one of the people I went to school with is actually a very famous makeup artist now. He was flamboyant. He was clearly gay. clearly, and very much picked on because of it. He is incredibly wealthy and famous now. And that is the most in your face that you can give to the bullies that you can possibly
and thank
do.
God he survived, though.
Exactly. I think that's I never thought about suicide. I thought about running away, but I never thought about suicide. It was not in my I like living too much even when things are bad. I was always independent enough as a child, the youngest of 4 by 7, 10, and 11 years. I was really just raised to raise myself. And when everything was bad, I still never ever crossed my mind to do that. But I am not the norm. And I am more than aware of that as an adult now, that I am the furthest thing from the norm. And that's something that I've had to recognize in order to be compassionate and empathetic or sympathetic to the majority of people that are surrounding me. Because my strong personality can steamroll, and I have a master's degree in education and school counseling. I do understand that when someone is depressed, they can't snap out of it. Right. We can't just tell somebody to just deal with the bullying. It'll be fine.
Right.
It's not how you deal with bullying. And there are parents who say, you know what, now said it just in here that suicide survivor here from extreme bullying from 1st to 11th grade, that changed after I took martial arts and they learned quick, period. That is one way that parents teach their kids when they have bullies to fight back, stand up. Standing up to a bully can be with words too, but I what if it doesn't work?
Just carrying yourself with confidence of, martial arts training can, non-verbally communicate, that message to bullies. But I would also say, to your point, Helene, a lot of people can have a strong sense of self and a strong sense of who they are and not necessarily be suicidal, but be driven just to want to make it stop and just want to disappear because it is so fucking bad when it's bad. It's just, and it's just, you know what I mean? You're not necessarily like showing a lack of, self-esteem. You just want to disappear because it's so relentless,
you block it out of your memory from when you're a child. I don't remember.
Yeah.
My sister is even worse.
Yeah.
But even worse childhood stuff. Yeah. So, I'm fortunate in the sense that I have positive memories with my mother. She doesn't. And I probably shouldn't talk about her on here because it's her world and her life. And she's 10 years older than me and had 10 more years of dealing with this than I did because my mom died actually 30, what I posted, 31, 32 years ago the other day. So I was 21. So I mean,
So young.
yeah, but you know, when you have parents that really weren't great parents for me,
Right.
being 18 and 21 and having them die
I'm sorry.
didn't really it, I mean, that's where when I say like strong personality and I've had to be like
Mm,
I've had to make my life
yeah.
because I hadn't if I had to fall, I had to fall and catch myself
Hmm.
most of the time with
Yeah.
the support of some amazing friends who are family.
Right. Well, and I think that that's such a key critical part of things is to create community and create the family you need and want. And to Maya's questions earlier about raising a child who wants to eat meat, I definitely suggest finding other people who are raising teenage vegetarians or vegans and just trying to socialize, and to Nels's point, when there is no safe space because home isn't safe and school isn't safe, what a nightmare. It is. I can absolutely speak to that. It's terrible, it's awful. So that's why if you bring a child into the earth, into the world, it is, I don't care what you're going through personally, it is your right. It is absolutely your responsibility to create safe haven for that child. You might not always agree, your personalities might clash, but that child did not demand to be born, and you need to make sure that they get what they need.
Not demand to be born in a country that is going to force children to have children.
Oh God, so sick.
I couldn't let that pass. I mean, we live in a country and over half the states will force a 12-year-old who gets pregnant by incest to have the
Unreal.
baby.
Yeah.
And then what? Like we want kids born out of incest with like what? 15 toes or two brains? Do we really want a person who committed incest child to be roaming this earth? Half their genes in that body?
We're souls.
Exactly. So we want a 12-year-old to be raising a child or to give up a child, and then we're going to worry about that child being bullied in school because they had a baby by their uncle or cousin or father?
Disgusting. Well, we're infantilizing children in one way, in that sense that we're banning these books that we were able to read all those years ago.
The
To Kill a
Diary of Anne Frank?
With the Diary of Anne Frank, To Kill a Mockingbird, and at the same time, not only states that are insisting that and if your child is having a baby pregnant at 10, 12, 11, 12, that is, whether or not it was forcible, that is rape. So whether or a child cannot consent, a child's brain cannot consent to that. But also we're we're exposing them to guns and gun culture, and just whoa, what can we do? It just lays bare the hypocrisy of this society. It's very sad, but
Kelly, tell us something positive about Canada. About Canada.
Oh, Canada.
I love your anthem. Love your national anthem.
I'm thinking about Joni Mitchell's Canada.
I mean, I am very much aware that even though we have a liberal federal government, that can change very easily, and especially because during COVID and We had, I'm sure you know, our capital was shut down with
Trucks.
protesters, and they declared they instilled the state of emergency act that's being heavily criticized, and it's going to unfortunately cost the party their probably their position in next election, and it's going to swing conservative. And right now, the conservative position, the leadership position, is open, and the two main people to possibly fill that role of extreme, like Trump-like conservatives. So if they win that position and they win the government, we're very easily on track to be where you are in just a couple of years. So that is, I'm very well aware of that and preparing for that.
I think that's the danger, is when you think it's that it can't happen. You know what I mean? That's always the danger. And I think you are expressing a very realistic scenario, and I'm hoping that you guys can stay ahead of it, unlike here.
I know. That's very true. Okay. Do we have any final thoughts on the topic?
Happy hour here.
I just want to say, with regard, we talked about this in other ways of dealing with the isolation that we feel sometimes as vegans, but making sure if you can, connect with Meetup and sites online where you can go to potluck dinners. I mean, I know in our area, those are starting to come back, and take the kids. And, hopefully there'll be other kids there that might connect with your kids, that you have that similar bond. Just a thought.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, if it's the parents that are going vegan and they're worried about, their children, like, don't let the fear of social issues like prevent you from doing what you feel is morally right. Because, like you said, Ellen, there is a huge community of vegan parents out there that you can connect to, right?
And even religious groups too.
Yeah.
Like Miriam, our Florida Voices for Animals board president, belongs to, what's the church?
The Hare Krishnas?
No.
They're vegetarian. Help me, Helene.
Seventh Day Adventist.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Miriam was a Seventh-day Adventist. That would make sense. Why wouldn't we do the event on a Sunday then?
Well, I don't know how.
Follow the Sabbath.
I've done things at her church, cooking demos and stuff like that, and it's going out. But yeah,
is it Seventh Day?
Yeah,
because it could. Is it the what's the other church that's really animal friendly and tends to go vegetarian, not really religious at all?
I was thinking you meant Adventist. That's the only one I think.
Adventist, is that? Okay,
that's seventh. That's seventh.
Yes.
That's Seventh Day.
Seventh Day Adventist. Yeah.
SDA.
Well, anyway, there are a couple of churches. Google them if you want to belong. And even the Unitarian Church is very open.
That's it. Unitarian. Yeah. That's where I was going. Thank you.
They're just more progressive in general, right?
Yeah, yes. Right. We've bashed religion tonight, and we have in the past. However,
did we? I don't think
just a little.
I did.
It's there are some positives to community.
Yes.
Right.
There are some positive. There's definitely positives to community and having that community and like-mindedness. And not cult. I'm saying like-mindedness because there is a line there, and you can cross over it pretty easily.
Right.
But having community, because that's what we have as vegans, right? We create our communities, we have them. People could consider us like cult-like, but we really aren't. I mean, I guess there are some that are, but for the most part, we're not. But everything has extremes and goes like the whole gamut. But community matters, and where you find that,
absolutely, will
make the difference in your world, for your children and for yourselves. Go ahead.
Christian vegetarians, that's a group. Jewish veg is a group. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think all the main religions now are kind of picking up on the movie that Victoria Moran did, A Prayer for Compassion. So, check with your favorite church if you're looking for a way to.
There's also
you might be surprised.
There's the Interfaith Vegan Coalition as well, that you can check out. Lisa Levinson.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, I
And
think
then and you can be agnostic and be vegan too. And there's a whole bunch of people like that, which tends to be a lot in the vegan world who don't believe in God. So
agnostic doesn't not believe in God. We
that's
just
why I've
They're questioning.
don't know what we feel it is unknowable, right?
what's the other word? Help me, not agnostic.
Atheist.
Atheist. Thank
Atheist.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to say something really quick is about the religion aspect. Is when people thought that our veganism was, loosey goosey, that I would ask them to think, like, if somebody were in the position of giving my son snacks or whatever, like a teacher or whatever, I would just say, think of it like we kept kosher. That would be inviolable. That would be like that is a kosher family.
Right. Or he's diabetic.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
You know,
That is true. Right. But somehow the
he's
religion.
allergic to dairy.
Yes.
Let's offer you some
Sue
ice
your
cream.
ass. Yeah.
Let's make you sick when you say these. That's why sometimes when we eat out, right, we say we're allergic instead of I don't like. Because it cuts the line. It cuts it right there. You can't question my allergy, but of course you seem to want to question what I don't like something.
Mouse
You
is
know?
so funny.
Let me
We
say there are a lot of magical beings and root workers like myself who are also vegan. We have cookies too.
Yes, we do have cookies. Yes, yes.
That's awesome. In other words, and in other words, we are there for you so well. So,
Mhm.
and as well. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Stu Crew. It's another amazing talk. And let's say bye to Marla, bye to Kelly, bye to Ellen, and then bye, Kelly. All right. So thank you once again for watching the Vegan Stew. We will be back next Wednesday. Pretty short. Yep. There's 31 days in August. It'll be our last one of the month. And that will be episode 40. And that's how a vegan diet can make you a better athlete. And we will again be leaning towards Ellen to have some fun in that discussion because she is our representative vegan athlete. Not that none of us do things as well, but Ellen is out there running like all the time. So, and you see those, trophies and awards. Or, oh my gosh, it's late from all her races behind her every time we go live. So, outside of that, remember to subscribe, Vegan Stew, Virtual Veg Fest. You can hit the notification button so you know when we go live. Enter our contest at virtualvegfestlive.com. I think I failed to tell you that earlier. And you can win our cool prizes. You have to upload your picture. That's creative. And we'll pick winners at the beginning of the following month. And this month we have 7 prizes. So thanks to them and thanks to the Refuge for sponsoring our live talks for the month of August. If you're in Durham, North Carolina on Sunday, our Vegan Mac and Cheese Cook-Off, our fundraising event with Piedmont Farm Refuge. And Triangle Veg Fest is a vegan mac and cheese competition that's in Durham. You can get tickets at trianglevegfest.com. And we will see you next week. Have a great night.